Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to season 8, episode 3 of the phenomenon known to all as Saturday afternoon's main event. Um, of course, beside the phenomenal one, right beside me is my co-host, the Peeps Nate. Of course, we're here to give you laughs, good times, and all the wrestling news possible. But before we go ahead and get into today's show, um, it sucks having to do these. We did one last week. Honoring and giving a tribute to the life of one great mind in the wrestling business as a booker and just as a professional wrestler as well when it came to storytelling in the life of Kevin Sullivan, the Taskmaster. Then just a week later, we had to get the news yesterday that Afa Onawai, the other half of the Wild Samoan, brother to Sika Onawai, who had passed away exactly 2 months ago. He is now sadly passed on to a new life. Of course, as I said, one half of the Wild Samoans of the Great Samoan Dynasty, one great Anawai family. We've now lost both of them in the same year, just within the span of 2 months. When it comes down to tag teams, when it comes down to professional wrestlers, when it comes down to individuals who play the heel work just so well, when it comes down to dominance, when you sit there and even just look at the bloodline of New Age and guys like Roman, guys like Solo, Jacob Fatu, when you sit there and you look at that, to me, it's the closest emulation to Sika and Alpha. As I always usually say on this show, I'm an old soul, and my grandfather always had these VHS tapes. And when it came down to some Madison Square Garden classics, when it came down to just seeing guys like the Bushwhackers, when it came down to the Rock and Roll Express, when it came down to teams out of Smoky Mountain, AWA, NWA, WCW, Jim Crockett Promotions, Arn and Tully, things like that. The tag team that captivated me the most was the Wild Samoans. Just the sheer dominance of Alpha and Sika was a sight to behold as a little kid coming from me. And that's what I always wanted to see when it came down to tag team wrestling, is not as much as the heel work, because I was always just a kid. Of course, the kids root for the baby faces, the good guys. But as I got older and I began to understand how the business worked, that's when I understood that Alpha and Sika played their roles correctly. They understood the pageantry of being a heel. They understood the work of character development within a match and the storytelling of how you go ahead and you get the crowd on their feet to cheer against you. When it comes down to this great business of professional wrestling, you have just one choice and you have one goal, and it's to get individuals invested. I can tell you now that as a 21-year-old doing a podcast alongside a co-host who has been around to see wrestling from the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, I know I may not speak for him, but I think I can speak for a lot of people when I say that they were ahead of their time. They were great at what they did. They were legends within their own profession. And with them both being gone, you know, as much as we may sit there and say that's a void that might be left unfilled, I promise you now that that is not the case, because within this whole bloodline, there are plenty of individuals who can carry that. Simply being Roman, Solo, Jacob, the Usos, Zilla, guys who are outside the business, who are still within that same stronghold of that family. We are in good hands. And it's only because of the foundation that Alpha and Sika laid for this new bloodline to go ahead and grow. But honestly, of course, professional wrestling lost two men who were key to the business, of course, being brothers. and a perfect tag team. And I send my condolences to the Anoa'i family, to the Fatu family, of course, all bloodline related family members who are grieving the loss, fans, close friends. Rest in peace to Afa Anoa'i. I'll go ahead and pass it along to Peeps Nate, who I know has some things to go ahead and say about Afa himself. And then, of course, I know he has something else to say and get off his chest. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Peeps. The floor is yours, my friend.
Well, thank you. Polynesian wrestling, which is something that a lot of people don't really think about as an actual part of the wrestling business, where we talk about Tongan, the island of Fiji, the Fuji. We know about all of the great wrestlers that come from Hawaii and also from Tonga, Samoa. Uh, there's a huge section of that wrestling culture that has become permanently ingrained within the wrestling business. And part of that, a huge part of that, comes from the Anoa'i family. We know that Afa was trained as one of the Wild Samoans was trained by Rocky Johnson and High Chief Peter Maivia, who is the grandfather of The Rock. We know that the lineage, those tree branches, as I've talked about many times, they spread out and the roots are very, very deep. We know that everywhere that the Wild Samoans were, they won gold. They were probably one of the most influential tag teams that has ever existed. And knowing Afa and his influence with his son Samu, who a lot of people may remember if you looked at wrestling in the late 80s and the early 90s, part of the Samoan SWAT team with his cousin Rikishi Fatu, who just went by his last name of Fatu. And that team was managed by Paul Heyman in WCW, the NWA days. And they were another really good tag team. But as I said before, that influence permeates. Yes. The Wild Samoans winning the WWF Tag Team Championships 3 times, Captain Lou Albano as their manager, and it just fit. They were dominant. They were athletic. The belief in their wildness and the unpredictability and the savage nature that they were portrayed was believable because it came through the screen. It came at you. And those are the things that we are remiss in talking about. And of course, as I said before, we see a lot of the influence that these wrestlers have had with some of their move sets. Obviously, the Samoan drop being one of them. A lot of the chops and the headbutts and a lot of the moves that we see from a lot of the Polynesian wrestlers have kind of now permeated into a lot of the wrestling moveset of a lot of other wrestlers. But also one of the things that we don't really hear about is that Afa trained in his own wrestling school, and he helped train lots of current stars and stars that have since retired, one of the notable ones being Batista. And we all know that that influence has been felt in a lot of the wrestling that we've seen. And also, we hear about some of the great things that he, as a family man, did with his wife. Opened up the Usos Foundation, which was basically kind of like a nonprofit organization to kind of help youths get off the streets, get away from drugs, get away from violence and gangs, and kind of help them move along. If they weren't going to be anything, quote unquote, professional or athletic, that they can do something that they would be helpful for in society and kind of help in a positive nature. And those are the kinds of things that we're going to remember Afa for. And outside of the wrestling business and just having his tentacles in the wrestling business, it's going to be extremely hard to say that we're going to try to replace the Wild Samoans, because right now they are having a huge luau in heaven, along with all of the other members of the Anoa'i family that are there with them. And now both brothers, tag team champions in heaven. We send our condolences along from us, not just as wrestling fans, but just humanitarily. We're going to miss them and everything that they have done while they were here on Earth.
Yes. With that being said, we'll go ahead and give a 10 bell salute, which is what we usually do here on Saturday afternoon's main event. For those who have passed on. So guys, just a moment of silence so that we can go ahead and give the 10 bell salute to Alpha Anoa'i. Thank you guys. As we've usually said, we're gonna go ahead and get started into the show. Of course, we're gonna go ahead and start the show off right with Wrestling Crash Course. Right before that, Peeps does have something to get off his chest. So look, we're about to go ahead and start the show. So we'll see you in just about a minute. But like we said prior at the beginning of the show, rest in peace to the late and the great Alpha Anoa'i. Stay tuned. Saturday afternoon's main event is coming up next. Shock the system. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to Season 8, Episode 3 of the Phenomenon Known to Mankind. It's Saturday afternoon's main event. If you do not know who I am, whether you are dumb, stupid, blind, or just plain irrelevant, I suggest you go back to school, go into your local library, get the biggest dictionary you can find, preferably Merriam-Webster, and look me up under the word phenomenal. Ladies and gentlemen, it is not a phenomenal one. And here I'm saying I'm not alone because I'm joined by my co-host, the limousine riding, jet flying, kid stealing, wheeling dealing, son of a gun who is not having a hard time holding his alligators down. So ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, give me 2 claps and a few stage.
Woo! Yes.
That's right.
We are here. We are here live once again, another Saturday afternoon. 3 tenets of a great afternoon. You know them, say them, you know what they are. Laughs, good times, and all the wrestling news possible. There we go.
Of course, exactly right. Glad to have you on the show here today, Peeps. And we're glad to have the viewers, the listeners, guys, whoever's tuning in on Twitch, Twitter, or YouTube. We appreciate you guys. We're up at 37 people going ahead and watching the show currently. Look, we appreciate you guys for going ahead and spending your Saturday afternoon with us. If you want to go ahead and keep up with any of the social media news and updates, of course, you guys can go ahead and follow us on Twitter at Saturday Main if you're watching there, or you can follow us on Instagram at Saturday Afternoons_main events. So look, without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get into today's show. But before I go ahead and do anything, guys, we usually don't go ahead and start the show off with this. But when you hear this, which is, of course, Euphoria by Kendrick Lamar, and that certain part where he says that he hates the hell out of the same individual who's called Aubrey Graham, you would know that it is time for a Saturday afternoon's main event rant. And it comes not from me today. It comes from one Peeps Nate. So look at it this way, guys. Peeps, I know you want to go ahead and get into it. And guess what, guys? It gets even more entertaining because it concerns one David Meltzer. Peeps, listen, my guy. The floor.
Yes. Thank you. Well, I had to hold on to my tongue for this. I first off, for those that have seen our show over the better part of the last 3.5 years,
Definitely.
I've done rants before. My partner has done rants before. We've had previous people on our show that have had mini rants or big rants or have had rants before. And it's usually on a decision, something that was made, something that didn't make any sense.
Of course.
I'm also usually very careful in how I do a rant because I usually never make certain things personal and try not to because that's not how I am.
Yeah.
I have to say something literally about this because it kind of goes into the tribute that we did a little bit earlier. And this is on Dave Meltzer. I have not gotten into Dave Meltzer before because Meltzer has been in the business for a very long time, since probably the early 80s, doing hotline, newsletter, dirt sheet stuff. The problem that I have, and this is something that I think a lot of people have with a lot of folks that do news stories, that do journalism, especially today with social media, is that a lot of people are more concerned about being first than being correct. The issue that I take with Dave Meltzer is the fact that he was the one that had reported yesterday that Afa had passed away, not knowing that he was still alive. And it was, I believe,
he posted it Thursday. Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. And it was Afa's daughter who went online and said that he has not passed away yet, although things did look very grim at the time. He's surrounded by loved ones. He's surrounded by family. Those are the kinds of things that have happened. And then he did eventually pass last night. So Dave did do a retraction saying that he jumped the gun. My problem here is, why does he feel the need that he has to be the one to report this when it comes to somebody's passing or potential health issues, somebody in a hospital, something going on health related? I would think that as a journalist or somebody that is doing something, you would actually, one, vet the information, and two, wouldn't you allow the family members to be able the ones to make that call? It doesn't make any sense to me what you gain from being the first to report something like this when it's something as sensitive as that. And now you have egg on your face reporting something way earlier, looking very uncomfortable, and then it comes across as, well, what are we doing here?
Yep.
I specifically made sure that I didn't put this rant into tribute because that would be, as far as I'm concerned, it would take away from the attention given to such a great athlete and a great person. But at the same time, I also didn't want to give that attention in that tribute. But Dave Meltzer, do better. We've heard plenty of people, from Eric Bischoff to lots of other people within the wrestling business, have excoriated Dave Meltzer on a regular basis for some of the things that he's done. This is the one time where I'm actually going out here and saying this right now. It was thoughtless, it was premature, and it was also dangerous, because you don't do something like that when you have the family potentially grieving somebody, not knowing what happens, and then you're reporting on somebody prematurely passing away. Now, what if Afa kicked out again, as he had done before? Because Afa had been in the hospital before, has suffered from 2 heart attacks and a stroke. Could you imagine if he would have kicked out again and have beaten the situation he was in now? Then how would have Meltzer looked? You have to be careful with the information that you're given when it comes to certain things like that. And as I said before, there are lots of people out there that they take more stock in being first than being 100% correct. And that's what I take issue with.
You got a reason why, peeps. You got a reason why. Trust me, I understand. But look, hopefully you're good now.
I'm good.
Off your chest. Okay.
I had to get that off. I'm good.
Ladies and gentlemen, peeps, just relax now. How great. Yes. How great. Okay, now
peace mode is over.
Exactly. Look, we can now kick off Saturday afternoon's main event.
Yes.
It's cool, guys. It's great. Everything is fun because, once you hear this, It is time for one thing and one
Yes.
thing only. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it is now time for
Wrestling Crash Course.
Yeah, listen. Earthquake at Peeps' house. It's okay. It happens. Well, look,
Yes.
guys, it's going to be a short show today. There's not much going ahead and going on. But look, first order of business here on Wrestling Crash Course, All In. AEW All In will be emanating from Globe Life Field, home of the Texas Rangers in Arlington, Texas, next year in 2025. Not in August, but on July 12th. Peeps.
Ay, ay, ay.
Yeah, I know.
Yes.
As much as it's great, because now I get to say that I don't have to use an empty slot on my passport. I don't have to go ahead and worry about traveling about how many miles across the pond just to go ahead and go to an AEW show. Another thing is that now it's taking place no longer in August, but now early July, around Independence Day week. It's like, okay, this is odd. This is new. But now it's its first stadium show in the US, which I promise you is going to be a great show. But peeps, why Texas?
Texas has always been a hotbed for professional wrestling, especially presentation-wise. They have lots of huge stadiums there. They have, more importantly, when it comes to the wrestling fan base, they are hungry for seeing really good wrestling on a big scale. Texas makes sense because we know that this stadium, relatively new, it can hold 40, I'm looking at it right now, a little over 40,000. The most that they've done is about 42, 43,000. I think that was for a concert, but they can get about between 41,000 fans in attendance. The reason why this one makes sense is AEW, for them to grow their product, they are trying to hit these bigger stadiums. We talked about ad nauseum what going into these bigger stadiums have cost them as far as what they're looking for in the realm of ticket sales. They have had a lot of trouble selling out big buildings, big stadiums, as we talked about with Grand Slam last week. Talked about that, where they had a little over 3,000 or 4,000 sold. When they did Grand Slam, the first one, they got over 20,000 fans, and it's been a precipitous drop every year. So we look at it right now. One, in London, where they're going to be doing the show in Wembley, they have, and I made sure I wrote this down, as of right now, I believe they only have they don't even have 50,000 people sold as far as tickets go in the building, after doing 70 or so, 78,000 at All In last year. The ticket sales going down, they've slotted it for a lower ceiling, so to speak. But I think if you're looking at it right now, if you're going to go ahead and say, we need to make sure that we have the amount of people that we're looking at, they're going for, I believe, 51,000 and change. So they have 6,000 tickets, 6,100 tickets still left to be sold. They're at 45,000 roughly in London. What they're looking at right now is, one, they moved the show back a month, because if we remember the last couple of years, All In, then All Out was about 2 weeks later, which made no sense. You're shipping people off back from London to come back to the United States and then to build another pay-per-view 2 to 3 weeks later. That's just not enough time. So you put it in July, you slot it there. You, more importantly, and this is the more important thing, you avoid running into SummerSlam. That's the main key. That's the main key. They avoid the WWE's cross-pollination of fans going somewhere and then literally by osmosis yanking fans from that show or from that particular area, and for whatever weekend that you have. So you have that. So I think that's where the main issue is.
Okay. That makes sense. That makes sense. Okay. So, in that sense, with 2025 being that All In will go to Texas, I guess that frees up Wembley for a spot. What are the metrics looking like, peeps? If we were to say, you know what, Hunter, last time we were in England, it was a feel-good moment. You had Bulldog, Hart hugging it out in the ring to end SummerSlam 92 in Wembley. Is there a chance that by next year we see SummerSlam in Wembley? Since it frees up a spot in August. I'm just asking.
If the logistics are there, I am almost certain that they will do a London show if sometime next year. I don't know which one it would be. That could work. I know that they're doing SummerSlam is going to be a 2-night deal starting next year. They're going to treat SummerSlam like WrestleMania, where it's going to be a Saturday show and a Sunday show to kind of encompass everything.
Yeah.
If they can do 2 shows in England for a premium live event, that would really, really be a feather in the cap for Triple H if he's able to do that. And would then further put a little egg on the face of Tony Khan, who has been trying to secure these tickets. They're going to get big. It's going to be a big show, regardless of whether they got 78,000 from last year down to 50,000 this year. It's still a huge show. It's the optics of losing 20,000 fans from year to year. That's the concern going in.
Okay. Then we'll go ahead and continue to analyze it and see what happens within the next couple of, months or so. But
Yes.
guys, yes, All In, Texas, everything's bigger in Texas. Let's see how this goes by next year. But with that being said, we move to the world of WWE. It involves Stone Cold Steve Austin. Stone Cold went on a podcast this past week, and he went ahead and sat there and talked about WrestleMania 40. That was in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, of course. Big talk of the town. Why wasn't Stone Cold at WrestleMania? Stone Cold said, look, he had a lot of things going on with his wife that he needed to go ahead and
It doesn't work for me, brother.
doesn't work for me, brother. Come on, man. There was speculation that maybe it was because the money wasn't right. It was this, it was that. He said, look, it was personal reasons with his wife. She had a lot going on. He had to be there. He said, look, Mania is not that important. I can go ahead and do something else about that, whatever the case may be. But he said it was really close to happening. But now the same person that went ahead and asked him, okay, how about WrestleMania 41? This man says, look, as quoted within the ticker at the bottom, he said, Vegas is literally right there. If Cody needs another hand, I'll be here. So look, peeps, Stone Cold, WrestleMania 41. I guess that's booked. Does he fit now? Is this just going to be like some type of one-off segment to begin the show just to get the crowd pumping and then just go about everybody's business? Because it's like, I can't see him, getting into like another. It only made sense this year. I don't see how you're going to go ahead and implement it for next year unless he somehow, some way gets implemented into a match that involves somebody he came face to face to about a decade ago. We all sat there and said that was the real WrestleMania dream match. And I think you know who I'm talking about.
Iron Mike. No.
Iron Mike is insane.
Yes.
That was 3 decades, bro.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Yes.
Guys, I'll answer it for peeps.
I'm sorry. I caught myself off guard with that one.
Oh, son, bro. Like, good grief. See, this is the first time I actually called him by his government name. This is how you know this is hilarious, yo. Oh, man. Guys,
yes.
Answer it. It's Charles Montgomery Punk.
Yes.
That's the only way I can possibly see that happening. But if not, is there really a need for Stone Cold at WrestleMania?
It's not a need. It's more like, as we talked about in our pre-production meeting, it's like, do you like ice cream? Yes. Do you like ice cream with chocolate sauce and sprinkles and whipped cream? Yes. And I think that's what Austin would bring. Now, I don't know if you saw this, but there was a picture of Austin that I saw flowing around within the last day or two. I don't know if he's getting himself ready to like pull trucks or he's trying to bench press anvils, but he looks jacked. His arms, his delts, his traps, he looks like he's been hitting the gym really, really hard. So if the thought process is we don't know if he's going to be fully physically ready to have some kind of a confrontation, he doesn't necessarily even have to have a match. But if he has something going and they've tied in next year at WrestleMania, especially we all know that next year's WrestleMania is John Cena's final WrestleMania, there's something intriguing as well. Maybe we get an Austin Cena match.
Austin,
I mean,
Peeps, can
that could be something to think about.
Peeps, in 2024, we're getting Austin Cena.
Think about that. Cena's going on this long retirement tour, and they're giving him the Derek Jeter treatment, where they're going to show him, oh, this is going to be his last Survivor Series. This is going to be his last WrestleMania. This is going to be his last SummerSlam, his last Money in the Bank, or whatever they do. And knowing that once December 31st, 2025 is done, so is John Cena's in-ring career, why not throw a curveball and maybe make that a match between Steve Austin and John Cena?
That's something to think about. Okay.
It's something to throw out there.
Okay. I see the vision. I see the vision. Okay, that is definitely something to think about. Okay, we'll look into it. But also in the world of WWE, we have this. The Lucha Brothers in World Wrestling Entertainment.
Cero. Miedo.
Like,
there you go.
You're telling me Penta Orozco and Rey Fenix in WWE? Babe. Yo, I didn't take no red or blue pill, but why the hell does it feel like I'm in the Matrix? The Lucha Brothers. Are you kidding me? Peeps, how did this happen? What the heck is going on? And is there really a possibility? Because
I think there may be a realistic possibility of this, because the Lucha Brothers, outside of injuries, have been one of the best tag teams that AEW has had.
Okay.
They've been an original tag team from AEW when they started in 2019. So they have been there for the entirety of the 5 years there.
Yes.
Penta and Rey Fenix being in the WWE, that style of wrestling, given the current style of production that WWE is doing with the camera work and some of the things that they do, could you imagine a tag team match between the Lucha Brothers and the Street Profits? And you've got Rey Fenix jumping over the top rope and the camera being fixed above the ring and doing one of those flying Asai Senton backflips off the top rope.
Peeps, don't get my hopes up.
Yes. I tell you, it may not be official, but if it happens, I'm not going to complain, because then you're going to have brand new tag team matches, brand new feuds, and then we'll see how they work it. I think that it's there. The premise for them to be there, and unlike the Vince regime, I think that Triple H would use them in a much better light as a tag team.
Tag team wrestling is always where it's at. I mean,
yes.
To be told, you got a point there, Peeps. But I mean, wow. The Lucha Brothers.
Yes.
Can you just imagine Penta coming across Jacob Fatu? I mean, for God's sakes.
Oh.
I mean,
wow.
Peeps, you know, too
yes,
bad.
The Lucha Brothers and the woo.
No Tonga Loa. Don't include that, man.
I understand. I understand.
Yo,
I think you completely missed me.
Orange Cassidy's kicks do more damage than whatever the hell Tama does.
Yes.
Tonga. Good grief.
Yes.
Good Lord. You know what? I digress. First one of the day, ladies and gentlemen.
First one of the day. There we go.
Children of all ages, look. This marks the end of Wrestling Crash Course, and this marks the end of the first half of Same. When we come back, we're gonna get into our questions, and then last but not least, our last topic for today's show will be about the Drew McIntyre and CM Punk saga. So stay tuned. Do not go anywhere, because of course, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, the second half of Saturday afternoon's main event is coming up next. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome back to the second half of Saturday afternoon's main event. Of course, it is Zada Phenomenal One. Right to my right is the one and only Deep Voice Dynamo, the Peep Stage. We're here to give you laughs, good times, and all the wrestling news possible. Look, guys, we're now at the part of the show where we go ahead and get into our questions, and we love these things. Look, if you want to go ahead and be a part of the show, if you want to go ahead and send in a question, if you want to hear our take on whatever you think is going on within the world of pro wrestling, then there's one way to get yourself noticed. DM us on Instagram at Saturday afternoons_main event. Send in a question in the words of the wrestling god, WWE Hall of Famer JBL. I guarantee will be on the next episode of the show. So with that being said, first question comes from Master Sean 007. He says, "Greetings, gentlemen. I always thought that WWE had limited amount of roster spots. Then they kept bringing in talent for the Bloodline storyline. Then they started doing business with TNA Wrestling. My question are, do they have a limited amount of roster spots, or do they have a budget for talent that they try to stay under? And should some of the talent that's being underutilized be worried about losing their jobs like Bobby Lashley and MVP supposedly have?" Hey, that's
actually a pretty good question. You want to take it first, or?
I'll take it first. Well, I mean,
Sure.
When it comes to guys being underutilized, like what's his face? Like one Dom Mysterio, you kind of get the memo for things like this. Wait, why is it that Peeps, I can't do this?
Oh Lord.
Why is it that every time I bring up Dom Mysterio, his face shows up? What? Wait, is he at Fanatics Fest?
Wow.
What the? Yo, this man hears Dom Mysterio's name, he shows up at Fanatics Fest. What's going on within this world? See, your Wi-Fi sucks, man. You're with a bunch of 40,000 other people. Your Wi-Fi is not going to be good. It's not working. You look, come in when you're good, man. Good grief. Triple C, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
Greatest thing since sliced bread. Oh,
yes.
Good Lord.
It's like say Dom's name and Triple C appears.
Yeah, good grief. Like, yo, Joe Hendry, he got one up on you, bro. Like,
yes.
Jeez. But to answer the question, when it comes down to people who are being underutilized, and if it's that they got, a certain amount that they want to go ahead and stay within, I say this. I say that that's the case. I think with underutilized, you can't say Lashley and MVP were. I can't say that they were underutilized. Were they not looked at in the best light for certain things, and they weren't going ahead and giving them a chance to shine as much? Yes, but when you think about it, Peeps, can you count on your fingers since Batista how many 45-plus-year-olds have held the world title?
Yeah, it's been a minute. Yes.
Like we can count, like Orton, Miz, who else? I would say Taker, Jericho, Big Show, Henry.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like what, last decade?
Yes.
So we're talking 2020s. Like, you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
So lastly, coming back to the company, and remember, Vince wasn't looking at him within the best light, having him go ahead and get into storylines with Rusev, out here tonguing down Lana, this, that, and the third. Once that was over, pandemic time rolled around, he joined the Hurt Business. Since then, Lashley went on to become a 2-time WWE champion.
Yes.
He was United States champion. Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander held the tag team titles. Business was booming for the Hurt Business.
Yes.
I can't sit there and say that they were underutilized. They made the most out of it. Lashley coming back to WWE from leaving it back in around 2008, 2009-ish?
I think it was 2007, 2008 when he went to TNA and became a 4-time TNA world champion. So yes.
So you see what I'm saying? So, Peeps, from that, coming back around 2019, what was it, after WrestleMania?
Yes.
So yeah, doing all of that. Not many guys get that chance. Lashley did, especially at the age that he was. So it's not like I can sit there and say to myself that Lashley was underutilized. He was utilized to the best of his extent. The problem now is that the guys in NXT are proving a point.
Yes.
You have Andrade, who comes back from AEW, who is what? WWE Speed Champion. People look at it and they're like, oh, damn, yeah, that's whack.
Yeah.
Triple H is running him into the ground.
But we also
What
know
happened?
what kind of talent he is. If you watch SmackDown and saw that match he had with Carmelo Hayes.
Three
That
matches
was-
already, peeps.
Woo, yes.
3 matches already.
Oh,
And
yes.
not one of them lacked. Not one of them. Not one of them. And you see, it seems like this man's internet is good now. Yo, Triple C, what happened? Yo, he's within a sea of people. He's enjoying the. Yo, you're good back there.
Listen, I mean, it's ridiculous. Yeah, I mean, as you see, you can see like the Raw stuff backstage, actually behind me here.
Yeah, he's out. Yeah, he's out of it,
Here at the
peeps.
Javits Center here in New York City for the Fan Fest. It's amazing. I would definitely recommend for everybody, if you're a fan of wrestling, sports, I mean, I would definitely tell you this is definitely a place to be. I mean, the only thing I have to say that,
See, it cuts out the minute he probably would say something.
considering
about
that it is here in New York City, but it's not in my hometown of Queens.
Here he goes.
New
Here he
York.
goes. Here he goes. Here he
But
goes.
other
Here
than
he goes.
that, I'm having a great time. And it's
Yo,
awesome
let me
to
ask
be there.
Triple C, let me ask you a quick question. Did they put Dom Mysterio on that
I mean,
mural
first
that's
of all,
right behind
it's
you?
Dominic Mysterio. This is the one thing that is bad about the Fan Fest, that Dom Mysterio is not here. What a disgrace. Yes. Matter of fact, he is next to the fake tribal chief. Do you not see that? Do you not
Wow.
see that? Look
Fake?
at that. Look at Dom.
Fake.
What a champion.
Wow.
What a champion. Dominic Mysterio.
Peace, what are we gonna do with this guy?
By the
He's turned into a roving reporter now.
This here, by the way, behind this here, it's like that's awesome. I have to say, it's pretty cool. It is
Pretty cool. Okay, that's amazing. That's amazing. Well, look, Triple C, thank you
Yeah,
for coming
I feel
in.
like a roving reporter. I agree with you, Nate. But again, look, I even have the American Dream. Look, the polka dots. So there you go, polka dots here. Look at that, American Dream. It's awesome.
This would have been
Just
great
to
if he
let you
wasn't
guys
lagging.
know, I'm saying that, hey, I'm listening to you guys, but also I'm here at the Javits Center in New York City.
I'm glad you're
Right.
enjoying yourself, man. Take care. Enjoy it.
Oh boy. It's not a Saturday without a reference, without a veiled reference to Dominic Mysterio being the greatest North American champion in the history of NXT.
Only Triple C.
But hey, I digress. There you
what
go.
are we
There's
gonna
number
do
two.
with this guy? Like,
Ah,
yo, this man is good grief.
we're at 100. We're at 126 of them already.
Really?
Yes,
Just for the year.
just for the year. We're just in the middle of August, and last year we did 158. So I guess it's safe to say that by October we'll probably crush that.
Sad. Just sad. Just sad.
Yes.
This is what wrestling does to us, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, it
Go through
has.
hell every day. I mean,
Yes.
good grief. But as I was saying, Lashley, MVP, not underutilized. The problem now is that you have guys that are showing their worth. Braun Breaker, who started in NXT when, peeps? 2020-ish? 2021?
Yes, I think he's there 2.5 years, roughly.
Now on the main roster, main eventing Raws, and is now the Intercontinental Champion.
Yes.
Andrade having banger matches with Carmelo Hayes. Another, what, first round, second round draft pick
Mm-hmm.
for WWE?
That
Went
is
to
correct.
SmackDown, and it's now putting on stellar matches with Andrade? Peace.
Yes.
You have those guys. You have guys like Austin Theory still trying to thrive. You have DIY. The Street Profits are back up, and the profits are probably showing because now they're going to go ahead and go up against the Bloodline for the WWE Tag Team Championships. You know, the youngsters are showing a reason why you should go ahead and watch, and it's making it intriguing. Tiffany
Yes.
Stratton is about
Yes.
to pull a Mariah May on Nia Jax soon. Okay?
Oh, of course.
Like, peeps, we are literally at a peak where where NXT is actually proving to be next up.
Yes.
You know, like we don't have to sit there and worry about those of past. Not saying that they're not good, not saying that it's
Yes.
not worth seeing them on television. But look,
Yes.
the youngsters need that utilization. They
Yes.
need to step forward and they need to show themselves and prove themselves to the crowd. We're not going to have these guys just go ahead and step out like Cody did and then not at least show their worth, go out different places, hit the indies, grind over there, this, that, and the third, when they're literally getting developed in place. And now it's in a place where you have Shawn Michaels running NXT. You have Triple H running the main roster. Creative has probably been the best it's been since what? 2019?
Yes.
Babes, they're moving in the right direction. I'm
Yes.
liking how it's going. I'm appreciating it. And we just have to wait and see. That's honestly what it is.
Yes.
I can't say that it's budget cuts. That's not the case.
No.
I wouldn't say it's limited amount of roster spots. That's not what it is either, because they're a walking billion-dollar company. The problem is that they don't want to override the sense of utilization for the older talent that has already gotten their big break, that has already probably hit their peak,
Yes.
and has already fulfilled their potential. They want to now use those who are on the scene of NXT, the names of Roxanne Perez, Trick Williams, Gallus, Joe Hendry now is getting seen on it. You have Kalani Jordan, you have Sol Ruka, Blair
and at the
Davenport.
top of that card, you have all ego Ethan Page.
Did you see the pop he got in Orlando?
Yes. They have blue chippers everywhere. They have top level talent. They have main eventers. They have upper mid card talent that can main event at any given time. The young guys are ready to showcase what they're doing. The blue chippers are getting their time. They're getting the rub with some of the others. And the ones that don't have the time to devote to singles careers, they're either in factions that are getting television time or they're in really good tag teams.
Exactly.
And speaking of that, it would be remiss if I did not mention that NXT Tag Team Championship match with Chase U and Axiom and Nathan Frazier. Without question, the single best tag team match in NXT this year.
And
that's saying a lot because they have had a ton of them this year.
Exactly. And they want to go too. And Rich
Yes.
all in revitalization. Rich finally going ahead and being likable again.
Auto redemption.
Exactly. His Redeemer run has been great. And I'm loving it. So Chase U, shout out to them for even winning the tag team gold. But it's like, you see what I'm saying, peeps? The names are there.
Yes.
The ability to go ahead and be great is there. They all got the rub. So look, it's just put them up to the main roster, see where their potential goes. So it's like, for me, I can't sit there and say, look, let's go ahead and leave Carmelo Hayes alone. Let's go ahead and give the rub to Bobby Lashley. If it's not with the fans, if it's not working, try something else. And if the youngster's what it is, look, since Bobby has been off TV and they started implementing matches between Andrade and Carmelo Hayes, which Andrade, as I said, WWE Speed Champion, he wasn't being utilized on the main roster as much. But once they started doing those matches, peeps, what happened? You had social media in a frenzy. You had fans going ahead and cheering for Andrade. Fans literally cheer for Andrade now. It's no longer just a silence.
Yes.
Carmelo Hayes gets heat. Peeps, you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
That's what is needed. That's what's needed. So I can't say it's that. It's just that they have a sense of where they want to go. And honestly, for me, I get it. It's a business standpoint. Bobby Lashley and MVP just aren't that answer right now. That's all it is.
Yes.
And I understand there's going to be plenty more sooner or later that are going to go ahead and leave. And it's one thing because it's not like they're just getting cut out of nowhere.
Yes.
But just letting their contracts end out. He's letting it end out. He's not going to cut them. He's letting them go ahead and get the rest of the money that they should get. But it's like, he's just like, look, it's just time to try a different approach. So I get it from that business perspective.
Yes.
But good question in that sense, Master Sean 007.
Yes.
Long on Isaiah says this. He's like, Roman putting on that Ulafala gave me a euphoric high. Felt like I was on angel dust. Not that I know what that is. Wink, wink. Okay, peeps, we have a crackhead on the loose. That's one thing. But peeps, about SmackDown last night. Roman going ahead and coming across his cousin, of course, Solo Sikoa. A returning Jacob Fatu, being a great Samoan werewolf with a cast on.
Yes.
Taking steroids. Peeps, what was your whole thoughts about that in the segment?
Without question, and we kind of hit on this last week, was that there has to be that point where Roman is going to get dumped on One, it makes sense in the fact that he's trying to get the Ula Fala back. He calls himself the tribal chief to the extent that he has OTC as the original tribal chief on as his shirt. New music, new lighting, and this walk to the ring it's not as slow as it normally would, but it has more purpose, more meaning. And then it builds the fans up with him being a face. So now what you do is you bring him in. They've kept him away from Jacob Fatu for a little bit.
Yeah.
And as all of these interconnectivity pieces, which you see Solo talking to the guys in the back. Oh, if he has the Ula Fala, he's the tribal chief. And I will acknowledge him the way you will acknowledge him. But he's going to have to take it from me if that's going to be the case. So you've got that in the background. You have the others now that it seems to be like this. The overarching story is it seems like the Ula Fala tends to corrupt. As the old expression goes, power corrupts, but absolute power corrupts absolutely. And I think that's kind of where they're going with this. Anyone that touches it or looks at it is tempted with the power that comes from putting it on. And it seems like they tease everybody that has touched it, looking like they want to actually get corrupted by that power. It's almost like putting on the Infinity Gauntlet. What's going to happen if I put them all on with all 5 stones in? So that's where they're going. But even more so, the logical aspect of this, with Roman going through Solo and going through Tama and going through some of the others, but yet getting beaten down, nobody coming to Roman's aid. It makes perfect sense. Why? Because Roman has been such a complete a-hole to everybody on the roster for the last 4 years. So it would make sense that he would have nobody come to his aid in his fight with the bloodline. Makes perfect sense. So now we get to the point where I think that over the next couple of weeks, we're going to start to see more of this happen. Roman is going to get beat down again. And what's going to happen? He's going to have to reconcile with his cousins. He's going to have to reconcile with Jimmy. He's going to have to reconcile with Jay. They're going to have to reconcile their feelings with how he treated them over the years. And then if you throw in somebody else, maybe a Sami Zayn, maybe a Kevin Owens down the road who's gone through a lot of this stuff. Maybe they throw in another person. We still have Zilla Fatu on the wings, so to speak. We've got Hikuleu somewhere in the bushes waiting to be part of this potentially. So there are so many different interconnected parts of the story that can be cherry picked and thrown in and will make sense to be plugged in like a jigsaw puzzle that's missing pieces. And then whichever piece you put in, it's going to make sense. That's what makes this such a great story.
Got a point there. You got a point there. Well, look, from there, we move to the last piece of questions for us in Crash Course. This comes from Tombstone City Adam. He says, All In is in 1 week, and I don't feel as excited as I was last year for the event. Why am I feeling this way? This is Saturday afternoon's main event. This isn't therapy, my guy. I can't go ahead and give you the exact answer. But what I can say is that I kind of feel the same way you do. It's not as hyped up as it was. But of course, you have to understand, last year was the first of its kind, since the inception of All In, but it didn't carry that AEW moniker. Last year was the first of its kind. You had the main event being MJF versus Adam Cole, 2 wrestlers of which that I liked. In that time, especially with the story that they were brewing. Peeps, when it comes down to All In now, the card is great.
Yes.
There are matches on there that is just A1.
Yes.
But I understand where he's coming from. Now, Peeps, do you feel the same way?
On some level, yes. There's remember I just talked about with the previous question, the interconnectivity of each match feels important, but they don't seem to feel connected to the same show per se, if you understand where I'm coming from. There seems to be part of what they're building for this show. And all of those matches, that I believe there's 9 of them so far.
Yeah.
Right now, the card is stacked. That's not even an issue. The question is the building of those matches and what they've done to slowly make each match feel important. And I think that's what people kind of feel is missing going forward. I think that's what a lot of that is.
Good grief. Okay, then. Well, look, with that being said, that marks the end of the questions. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, look, you want to go ahead and be a part of the show once more. You want to send in a question, DM us on Instagram at Saturday Afternoons _ main event. Send in the question. As I said, it will be answered on the next episode of the show. With that being said, guys, we've gotten to the last part of today's show. This is our literal last segment for August 17th, 2024. Peeps, look at it this way. We have about a good couple of weeks. We got about 2 weeks till Bash in Berlin. And we know for a fact that we're getting Orton Gunther already. There's no question about that. But what I want to talk about is that second match, that grudge match. Drew McIntyre, CM Punk.
Yes.
Now, peeps, look. SummerSlam, we got a great match. Drew won that. Now, of course, Bash in Berlin going ahead and going on. We already know that it might be some type of real match, probably a strap match. Would be nice if we got something like a dog collar match. No, that's not going to be possible. But honestly, a strap match between Punk and Drew, especially with with Punk going ahead and getting Drew's belt, whipping him with it. Good grief,
yes.
That was amazing. Great storytelling. We're going to hear more about it coming this Raw, on Monday. But with this being said, we're going to have that strap match. We can already see Punk's going to be the eventual winner. Next pay-per-view after that, Bad Blood. Peeps, I think we know where this is going. And we said this from the jump.
Yes.
We're going to get that Hell in a Cell match, right?
Yes, we are. I believe so.
Now, peeps, with that being said, you already have the first match, then you have the rubber match, and this is the end-all be-all. Who's coming out winning at Bad Blood?
If that's the final match between those two, then it has to be CM Punk. But what they've done to build in between has been chef's kiss. The beating last week that CM Punk gave to Drew McIntyre with that belt, just lashing him across the back. And I don't know if you noticed this. Drew McIntyre went on social media and took a picture
of the welts
of the welts on his back. But here's the other subtle part of this that people didn't notice. With the lashes on his back, he put his fist behind his back to make sure that the bracelet was shown in the picture. That is expert trolling by Drew McIntyre, where he shows how violent this is, and yet you can still see the bracelet with his wife's name, with CM Punk's wife's name and Dog Larry on the bracelet in the picture. Purposefully done. Those are the kinds of touches that an astute eye would catch, but most people are looking at the violence and, is he going to get his hands? It's the subtlety in between these instances. Things that have happened in vignettes, in interviews, social media, as they've been playing social media to get the fans back in. Those are the kinds of things that I'm thoroughly enjoying about this whole entire feud.
Oh, no, definitely. Definitely. But I mean, peeps, we talk about that so much.
Yes.
Let's talk about CM Punk. He hasn't gotten injured yet. What a blessing, right?
Wow. Yes. Yes. Knock on wood.
Knock on wood, of course.
Yes.
Yes. You got a point there. But I mean, it's like sitting there thinking about it. Last year, we were all eyeing a match between Punk and Joe within the next week.
Yes.
That's what we were looking at, right? Our
Yes.
predictions was subtle. We were sitting there like, you know what? This is Punk's version of his world title. He's defending it against Samoa Joe. This is going to be a slobber knocker of a match. Ring of Honor-esque. We're going to see a bunch of Pepsi plunges. And then all that happens, about 5 hours later, we found out CM Punk got into a fight with Jack.
Yes.
Now, a year later, we're talking about Bash in Berlin. CM Punk's real second singles match back, televised,
Yes.
and it's against Drew McIntyre, and it's all about Punk being a nuisance.
Yes.
But in all
And the
honesty,
symmetry involved is the fact that Drew McIntyre took a picture with that same Jungle Jack Perry, put it on social media, and then had it deleted. So there you go.
This is wrestling, ladies and gentlemen. Wrestling.
Yes.
This is what we live
What a
for.
concept.
What a concept, peeps.
Yes.
Well, look, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, this marks the end of Saturday afternoon's main event. It's 1:05 p.m. in the afternoon. You guys go ahead and enjoy your Saturdays, right? Do whatever you guys have to go ahead and do today. I know for a fact me and Peeps are going to be watching Collision. Psych. Just kidding. It's wrestling, ladies and gentlemen. We don't miss that for the world. But we're going to be back here for episode 4 next week. So look, enjoy all the wrestling that you possibly can. I will. I know Peeps will. And I know you guys will too. But look, we'll see you guys for episode 4. And it is here on Saturday afternoon's main event that I, the phenomenal one,
And I, the Peeps Nate, where we came.
we saw.
And in the words of the Hall of Famer, the great Paul Heyman, we conquered.
We conquered, ladies and gentlemen. See you next week for episode 4. It's a phenomenal one. It's a Peeps Nate. It's Saturday afternoon's main event. Peace. Love. Farewell.
Yeah.